If America is ever going to be a nation of fathers again, and I believe it will be, it'll be because of men like Justin Rinck, attorney, minister Justin Rinck. How you doing, my man?
Doing great. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm
Well,
doing
afternoon, I
good.
guess.
Well, hey, you know what? People will be watching this all hours of the night for years to come. But Justin, you are a hero, brother. You are the reason that my son Elijah was back in my life after 17 years of parental alienation and unlimited amounts of money for unlimited overactive, harassing court appointments. I didn't have much hope until I met attorney Justin Rinck. And he's one of a kind. He's ahead of his time, but talk about a champion for parental rights, not just father's rights, but parental rights as well. But if you saw the headline, you've seen the parental rights, the father's rights. Let me tell you, again, my son Elijah and I owe an eternal debt of gratitude to you because when he called me a Wednesday night before I was going to get to visit him on Saturday, he said, "You know what? I may be going with you, Dad." And that was the first time in his life he ever called me from a phone that I had available to him, and he kept my phone number. For some visits that I was only able to have due to Justin. Legally, I should have had visitation, but we have a system that until recently has rewarded parental alienation and accommodated. They will lament a fatherless nation and the statistics of crime and addiction and suicide and abuse linked directly to fatherlessness, but they will reward parental alienation until recently, and some of that has been due to the efforts of attorney Justin Rinck. But when I called him, I said, "Hey, his mother's the type that's going to claim kidnapping if he comes with me." He had reached a level of trouble that I had reached before I finally had to end the marriage and do some violence issues. But I was able to call someone I could trust, and that was Justin Rinck, and he was able to help me above and beyond. How many years have you been an attorney now, Justin?
Going on 13 years.
Oh my gosh. And I met you a while back, man. And but you were serious. You joined the ranks of good attorneys, moral attorneys, because you saw someone going through an injustice and you wanted to help them out as well. And here you are, man. And I'm just so proud to know you.
Thank you. I enjoyed working with you. And I mean, now that Elijah's 19, it's good to see him, you know, taking control of his life. And I mean, getting ready to graduate from trade school. We need a lot more of that. That's for certain.
Well, I tell you, brother, I don't know what I would do without you. There's people watching right now that are happy to see the face of the man that has helped end parental alienation, at least in my case. But it's not just my case. In the county in which the past 17 years of court activity towards me has happened, all while trying to see my sons on a regular basis. You've made some headway on behalf of dads. Can you comment a little bit on that?
Well, yeah, and it's not just the county that you were in. It's counties across Oklahoma.
Wow.
There's always been a movement towards educating, judges and attorneys on how to fight for men's rights. There's law firms out there that cater strictly to men because it's that big of a deal here in Oklahoma. And while I wasn't involved personally in helping change legislation and things like that, I was very active in trying to make sure that the voices of the fathers were being heard and visitation rights were being granted. The wonderful thing about the state of the law in Oklahoma now is when judges started out looking at cases previously, you would hear the testimony and the evidence from the parents if there was a trial, and the judge would make a decision and say this is what I'm going to grant for custody and visitation. Okay. And I think it's important to kind of make sure that our listeners know what the difference is. A lot of people hear custody and they think, 50-50. And so they immediately equate that with how much time they get to see their kids. And that's not the case. You have custody is one aspect, visitation is the other. With custody, you have two options. You have joint custody and you have sole custody. One of the things that's very important to note is the distinction between the two is only at the very end of the decision making process. Okay. Under joint custody, the parents have to discuss the major life events for the children. And then together they make a decision. We're either going to do A or we're going to do B. And if they can't come to a decision, say mom wants A, dad wants B, then you end up back in court and a judge will tell you which one to do. Under sole custody, you still have to have the exact same conversation. Mom and dad have to have a conversation about what choice they're going to make, A or B, and the pros and cons of each one. Then, under sole custody, the parent who is the custodial parent gets to say, I choose this. And they have to inform the other parent before they actually implement the decision. That gives the other parent an opportunity to say, that's not what I want. I want to go back to court. So literally the only difference is right there at the very end. You still have to have the same discussions. Now, the way that the court system works, you still have those two options. But if a judge decides that they're not going to do joint custody and they're going to choose sole custody to one parent or the other, the court now has to say, this is why I'm doing it. They can't just say, this is what I'm doing, and that's the end of it. They have to articulate the exact reason why they're doing it. Now, then that takes you to visitation. And visitation is how much time you get to see your kid. And the same thing applies. After the judge hears the evidence, the judge says, this is the type of visitation that you're going to have. Mom, you're going to have this. Dad, you're going to have this. And they have to, if it's not 50-50, or something very similar to 50-50, the court has to articulate specifically the reason why they're not doing 50-50. And I'm happy to say that in my experience, most of the time, when a judge does something that's less than 50-50, it's because of there being a limitation, a physical limitation as to why that takes place. I had a father who works 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. He's limited, with options for childcare and things like that. So he got, extended visitation, pretty much every single weekend and during the summertime. And the judge tried to get it as close to 50-50 as they could in order to set that out there. So if his circumstances change, then the schedule would change as well. So I'm happy to say that's the state of the law now in Oklahoma, where, parents can't really, the weekend warrior dad era in Oklahoma, hopefully, because we're still dealing with, this law is relatively new, less than a little over a year. And it's the impact of it is still being felt throughout, a lot of courthouses and counties. So hopefully the era of the weekend warrior dad is over.
Thank you, Lord. Some of you guys that are watching right now, you know what it's like. You know what it's like when a judge has ordered custody or joint custody or visitation rights, and you drive 12 hours like I did, only to be able to see your child for an hour, maybe. There seemed to be no hope. There seemed to never be a consequence for disparagement, for parental alienation, for standing you up on visitation and things like that. And some of you, you gave away everything during the divorce, and then that wasn't enough. Some of you know what it's like when your ex-spouse wanted to destroy you. But I wish I would have had you back then when all that was happening to me. I even had an ex that was calling employers trying to get me fired while suing me for more child support. And then during 2008 recession, 30 million people lost their jobs. I was one of them. Had me, added on and had a cash only warrant. And oh my gosh, it should have been illegal being prosecuted on the criminal and civil side for the same offense. That should be that's against your rights, folks. But I didn't have lawyers like Justin Rinck. And I was looking at 8 years in prison with no felonies, no criminal history, not even disrespecting a cop to this day. But I didn't choose the right lawyer. And I also didn't know much about GALs, which is an area that Justin is increasing in. I had a GAL, and that person didn't even speak to my side of the family, only the abuser alienator side. So when it comes to a lawyer for father's rights or for mother's rights, when it comes to a GAL, that Justin's going to tell us about, I'm recommending, if you're anywhere in Oklahoma, I'm recommending Justin Rinck. And even if you would consider a Zoom consultation where people can pay you, for more information as well, folks, he is every bit worth it. But what would you have to say to those fathers watching, or even mothers watching right now, where they're close to giving up because the other has outspent, outmaneuvered, out lawyered them. And all too often you hear the term deadbeat dad or deadbeat mom. A lot of times they just simply ran out of money and were not afforded the endless, unlimited court activity that ex-spouses like mine was awarded. What would you say to those fathers or mothers watching about that?
Well, the primary thing is, getting to know your attorney. Okay. An attorney is, you have an interview. That's your first meeting with your attorney. You explain what your issues are, and you need to really listen. What is the attorney telling you? Is he giving you information that is to you because you know your situation, that is sounds like it's tailored to your situation? Usually when you're listening to someone, you can hear the sincerity in their voice. You can tell when they're listening to you, when they're talking to you about your situation, and it sounds like they understand. You hear that. So look for that. If you're talking to an attorney and you're hearing, a drone, and they sound like they're regurgitating facts and statistics and things, and you're not comfortable, go with your gut. Okay. I've had meetings with clients that they've not hired me, or I've not, allowed them to hire me because it's not a good fit.
Right.
And it's important for you to have a good fit with your attorney. If you're comfortable telling them things and you feel like they understand what you're telling them, and two, you want to have an attorney that's going to be straight with you. If you tell your attorney something and they look at you and go, no, no, don't do that, or they get real animated about, trying to change what you're saying so that you're not doing something wrong, that's a good attorney. Don't feel like they're getting on to you. Their job is, and in family law cases, I say their job is to help you win. But in family law cases, it's about the kid. So if the situation turns where the kid wins because they have both parents in their lives, that's who you want to have. Okay. If the attorney is talking about taking the other side for everything they've got, or I'm going to get you sole custody, I'm going to make sure that she only gets to see him or he only gets to see him on weekends. If you're hearing that kind of information, that's not what you want. Okay. It's great to win. I love to win. I'm competitive. Wouldn't be in this job if I wasn't. But at the end of the day, you're looking for the kid to win.
Right.
Okay. Because that's who is impacted the most by the divorce proceedings when kids are involved. Okay. Yeah. There's property. There's things like that need to be dealt with. But at the end of the day, it's all numbers. Okay. Numbers are relatively easy. The emotions and the stability and the mental health of your child should be your top priority. And if your attorney is focusing on that, you've got a good one. And that's what you need to look for.
And that's what you are. That one Wednesday night I got a call. I said, brother, can we have something in place just in case I get to take him, because the vindictiveness that you see in the news, folks. I mean, it goes both ways. It's not just mothers. It's not just fathers. But I had a gut feeling, and man, what a godsend. Little did I know that I would get another phone call, and being dropped off in 40-degree weather, no coat, no phone, no medication, no curriculum, no counselors, all the things that supposedly were important, at the last court date. But he was traumatized, he was devastated, he was brokenhearted. But had there not been the preparation by a lawyer who listened, I would not have been able to have emergency custody of him. And then he was able to speak to the judge as well and reveal the ordeals and the abuse and the alienation that he had gone through his whole life. And again, it takes an attorney who cares and who is serious, you know. Justin, I know that I pray that you'll be a judge as well, but I don't know what I would have done without you, and I definitely would not have been able to have been prepared to keep my son during an emergency custody scenario and to watch him flourish if I didn't have a lawyer that cared. And I have to say though that you being a preacher and a minister as well made all the difference in the world as well too, because while you like to win and naturally competitive as any effective man or woman should be, you have a moral compass. You have a true north that is not money first, but it's justice first. And we need more attorneys like you. We need more GALs like you as well. For a lot of you don't know what a GAL even is, especially those who have been alienated from your children. You think the only options you have is to try to match the unlimited spending that part of your child support is going to relentlessly sue you. But there's other options as well. But how would you explain what a GAL is to those fathers and mothers who are alienated from their children with the court?
Okay. So I'm going to try to oversimplify this as much as I can. A GAL, it's a guardian ad litem, is what they call them, and it is an attorney that is appointed by the court to do an investigation and prepare a report for the court. The nice thing about having a GAL is they get to talk to anyone that you would like them to talk to. Okay. You are going to give your GAL a list of people that you think are important to give them information about your kid, about you, and about things that are going on. When I get appointed, I usually go and talk with, both parents within the first week of being appointed. And I tell them, listen, if there's someone you want to talk to me, the people I want to talk to are school teachers, people that see your kid on a regular daily basis. They see your child when they come home from mom's house or come to school from mom's house. They see your kid when they come to school from dad's house, and they know who had the child just based off of the child's either behavior, the way they are dressed, the way they look, the way they behave. All of those things are clues that school teachers have. So I love to talk to school teachers. Principals generally, if you've got any issues going on, a principal is going to know about it. So I usually talk with them as well. Then, if the child has a therapist, I talk with therapists. I talk with family members, grandparents, or siblings, anything that might help me get a better grasp of what's going on. Then I get to know the kid. I'll generally talk with the kid when I meet with them at mom's house. I'll talk with the kid for momentarily when I meet with them at dad's house, so that they know that mom and dad both know me, and the kid is more open, perhaps to talk to me. And then I usually have a meeting with the child, depending on their age. Frequently I'm dealing with, kids that are in their, early teens, preteens, so I can sit down and talk with them and have a chat. They get to tell me what they want,
Right.
and, you get to talk to them, you try to direct the questions. So you're not saying, hey, what about this about mom? What about this about dad? You couch it so that the child can give you information. You can use that information to say, kids love their parents, whether it's good or bad, all kids love their parents, and they generally don't try to say anything negative, about the other parent, but it happens. Okay. And a GAL kind of helps to fetter out some of the information and the things that are important for a judge to know when a judge makes a decision. Now, a lot of people construe kind of what a guardian ad litem does. Just because we do an investigation doesn't mean that we get to tell the court this is what you're going to do.
Right.
We don't get to go in and say, I want this parent to do this. I want this parent to do that. Okay. Now, things that we can do, okay, is in our reports, we can say this parent was cooperative, this parent was not. This parent, would like to see this for their child, and this parent did not. As the GAL, I can then say, my opinion would be that this might be a good idea. And if the court chooses to do this, this is the way that I would recommend doing it. So do get to make some recommendations. A GAL is important too, in the fact that most of the time when you go to court, okay, if you have a trial, here's mom's attorney, dad's attorney, and they try to get information to the judge. Okay, you're getting fed information through witnesses, and just like you see on TV, you've got constant objections, objection hearsay, objection relevance. And all of those objections prevent the judge from hearing information that might otherwise be important.
Right.
Okay. Your child's voice is not getting heard by the court because anything that the child says, by definition, of the court rules, is hearsay and is not allowed into testimony. A GAL can get some of that information in through their report, through their recommendations regarding what the child prefers and the reason why the child prefers this or that. The reason why a recommendation is made based off of the interactions that the GAL has had with all these individuals. So the judge gets more information in order to make a decision when they have a GAL in place than whenever it's just the attorneys, presenting, an attorney's going to present dad's side, an attorney's going to present mom's side. They're not going to present the negatives of their own clients, and they're going to do everything that they can to prevent the negatives from coming in. A GAL can bypass a little bit of that and give the judge a much clearer picture. So a GAL can be very, very important in a case. And as Brant mentioned earlier, people are throwing money at it. The nice thing about a guardian ad litem generally is the cost for the guardian ad litem is split between the parents. So one person is not going to be responsible for 100% of it in most cases. It's whatever the percentage of the child support guidelines are. If one parent, if each parent makes, 50, it's 50-50 income because they both have the same income, they're going to pay 50% of the cost. Whatever those are or what the terms are, that cost is shared between the parents. So that's another benefit too.
I wish you would have been my guardian a little. Mine didn't even talk to any member of my family. Was lazy and incompetent, I must say. That's my opinion. In light of medical abuse, where prescriptions were increased when the child was being punished, to education abuse, 6 years behind, to physical, to emotional, to verbal. None of those things seem to matter to the wrong GAL, and it really is a shame. And then, of course, recommendations for him to return to that abusive environment. But I'm grateful, for the good ones, and I'm grateful that you, being a good lawyer, was able to make sure the child had the other side didn't want my son talking to the judge. They didn't want that at all. But he was old enough and definitely could speak for himself, and he did, and I'm grateful for that. But a GAL, is it safe to say that a GAL can make you or break you?
A GAL could definitely make a difference. Absolutely. I wouldn't say make or break, but it will definitely make a difference, in the direction of the case. And another thing, if you've got a GAL who is going in and making a report, they're going to be talking with you on a regular basis. Simply because that's the way that they gather their information is who they talk to. So, communicating, if you get a GAL appointed, communicating with that GAL, sharing information with them, is paramount.
Well, is there a reason? I think you're a brilliant lawyer. Is there a reason that you're moving more towards the GAL space?
I'm trying to move a little bit more into the guardian ad litem, parenting coordinator space, which in that situation, you're working with both parents. As a GAL, you're working for the court, but you're working with both parents to gather information. As a parenting coordinator, you're also working with both parents to try to help them come to a resolution of their issues. I enjoy that side of the work more because it's focused more on the child. It's focusing on making sure that the kids are getting the things that they need, and getting the mental, and physical, emotional, all that kind of help that they need. Whereas when you're representing, as an attorney, when you're representing someone, you're representing their side of the story. Your job is to present the best thing from your client's perspective and highlight the negative of the other side. And as a guardian ad litem, you're not doing that. You're giving a kind of a factual report saying these are the issues that were raised. These are the things that I discovered. These are the facts that I uncovered during my investigation. And based on that, this is what I would recommend in the best interest of the child. And when you're representing, a father or a mother, for good or for bad, you present the best of your client's case to get them the most time, the best custody situation, et cetera, that you possibly can. And I like doing the GAO work because I love making sure that the kids are being taken care of. The more I see, I've done juvenile work, and the abuse that I see out there in the world, it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult to deal with. And you see those things, you're like, what can you do to make things better? And my position, where I am, I'm not a therapist. I mean, if I were, that would probably be the area that I would be in, simply because, I see all this damage being done to kids. So for me, being a GAL is the best thing that I can do with my position, so to speak, to make sure that I can help, parents make the best life for their kids.
It is clear to me that you do put the child first, and my son is flourishing. You know, he's come a long way, and he's very smart. When I got him, I picked up I don't want to say a boy, but a young man, and he is a man now. He talks and drives and dresses and works and studies and learns like a man. And a lot of that has to do with you, because he would not have had those opportunities if I would have had the same kind of lawyer as the GAL that I had. And I'm very, very grateful to you. And I encourage everyone. I actually encourage people, if you want, if you're anywhere in the Oklahoma, is it okay to say anywhere in Oklahoma?
Yep, pretty much anywhere in Oklahoma.
You see the Justin at jrlaw.solutions, Justin at jrlaw.solutions. And I really encourage all of you, uh, especially in the state of Oklahoma, who need information. And I know, Justin, I know you enough that if you have completely moved into the JL space, by the time you do that, you'll have other lawyers you believe in that will do well for the child first, and then of course the parental rights of visitation. People, folks, you know what, you can't hate your ex more than you love your child. And the destruction, it was such an anomaly to me. It was such a wild thing, to see firsthand, but again, you see all kinds of cases, Justin, and it's just important that people don't give up when it comes to a GAL. That is usually after. Am I right in saying it's usually after the initial court date of a divorce proceeding?
Yes, typically what happens is, as people move into the court system, whether it's divorce or paternity, when kids are involved, usually what you have your first court date. And at that point, a judge is going to understand just how adversarial the process is going to be. The more at odds the parents are, the more likely it is that a guardian ad litem is going to be appointed. If the parents get along and they're just a disagreement over, maybe, do I pick the kid up on Thursday night, or do I pick the kid up on Friday night? And there's just those minor things because they just, there's going to be disagreements. I mean, that's the reason you're getting divorced. But for the most part, they're in agreement on the child. You're not going to get a guardian ad litem in those types of cases, because a judge is going to help you say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And they're like, okay, now that we've got our direction, we go with it, and we're going to work together to do it. It's where there is no agreement. I want 100% of the time, he can have the weekends. He says, I want 100% of the time, she can have the weekends. That's where you end up with a guardian ad litem, in your case, because it's too adversarial. And you really don't know that from Jump Street. You usually know that by the time the first court date is over. usually a temporary order hearing, of some kind. And once you have that information, then you know. Or if you're in a modification situation where you already have a decree and it's not working, and there's a request for a modification, a guardian ad litem oftentimes gets appointed in that situation.
Now, of course, in my case, there was zero cooperation or negotiation. And so we really relied heavily upon your representation, and of course the judge's decision as well. But for a parent out there that they're already being alienated and they haven't even had the first divorce proceeding, what advice would you give them if they're already experiencing alienation?
Well, the most important thing that you can do, and this is true for your kids, for your spouse or ex-spouse, communication. Um, you know, any communication that you have, you want to make sure that you're documenting it. Just because you're being alienated and you're like, you throw your hands up and say, I'm never going to get anywhere. Don't stop with the communication. Don't stop requesting the time. Okay. Because when you do get into court, all of those requests are going to be considered by the judge. Look, this dad never gave up. Every single week, he was requesting to see his kids. And, mom said no, or vice versa, because it happens both ways. You know, don't don't forget that getting an attorney is important. There are things that you can do, things that you can file. There's legal aid, and they have some forms and some documents there. So if you know what you need to do, you can get that information there. Okay. There are also, most bar associations have options where you can pay like $50 for a 30-minute consultation. Okay. And some attorneys, if you look around, they offer, your first consultation free. I offer my first consultation free. If you need more time, or, usually about 30 minutes to an hour is what I allot. And if you need more time than that, we can set up an appointment, and you could pay for a little bit more time. But, I try to be very reasonable with that, because when you're trying to get information, the more information you have, the better armed you're going to be.
Well, anywhere in Oklahoma, I'd say anywhere that's watching this, if nothing for nothing else. I mean, you're gracious to do your first consultation for free for those who are in Oklahoma, but I have a feeling, Justin, that people will want to ask your wisdom from all over, and that time is very worth something. Is very valuable. I know that, and that's a whole nother show right there. But I'm so grateful. And, I was able to send you emails and inquiries. How are my sons doing? Can I speak to them from 2012? Actually 2007, but from 2012 when it even escalated more, and it was just so wonderful that you knew what was happening when I saw you. Some attorneys, you know what I'm talking about, folks. You have to kind of do their job for them. Not so with Justin Rinck, J.R. Law. And literally a lifesaver. I believe you literally saved Elijah's life as well, and there were special circumstances there. What would you say to fathers who, what? She takes me to court, sues me relentlessly. I'm in poverty, and I can't even see my kids. I'll just stop even going to court. I'm just going to give up. Now that's of course when the alienator calls them a deadbeat dad, when they don't have the loads and unlimited amounts of money and God knows what else for their lawyers. How would you encourage fathers, especially, who just say, forget it? This is too much. I'm just got to give up. I'll just wait till they get older.
I mean, when you reach that point, it's real hard. It's difficult to find that strength to just take that next step and keep going. Um, as a father, you need to remind yourself, this is my child. I've been given a gift. I've been given a responsibility. And even if the other parent has done whatever is necessary to try to prevent my child from even wanting to be with me or see me or talk to me, you still have that responsibility that's been given to you to fight for that kid, to fight for your child. And at the end of the day, if you can look yourself in the eye and say, I did everything that I could today, you're a good dad, whether you're able to be there for your child or not. If you did everything that you could that day, you're a good dad. And you just got to remind yourself, I did everything that I could today. So, you know, sometimes, the money's not there. You don't have the ability to keep fighting in court. And that's, that's heartbreaking, when that happens. But please, don't give up. Even if it's, a text to your kid, just thinking about you today. Give me a call if you want. Those types of things, because kids aren't stupid. Okay. A child is going to turn, 18, 19, and they're going to start seeing things for what they really are. Every teenager, and I'll use myself as an example. When I was 17, 18 years old, my parents didn't know anything. Okay. I was the smartest thing on the planet and I could make my own decisions. And it wasn't until I was almost 30 that I realized that my parents knew what they were talking about. And everything that I did with my own decisions as a young person, 95% of that was the wrong decision. I mean, it was just the wrong decision. But I realized it, and it took time. So even if you as a dad, your kid's 18, they're still not talking to you, kid's 22, 23, still not talking to you. If you did what dads are supposed to do and you reached out, you tried, you're
Yeah.
in a difficult situation, that child is going to realize it at some point in their life and they're going to reach out. They're going to try to talk to you about what was the truth, what really happened, and you'll be able to talk to them. I've seen it time and again where parents have come to me going, yeah, my kid was, 27 and they came home and they called me, they came to the house and we had a conversation and, we're on great terms now.
Wow.
Okay. So that's what I would tell you, like one more time, look yourself in the mirror and say, I did everything I could
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. That's good encouragement, good advice. Not every situation was as severe as mine, you know. But I'm so grateful that I was able to find you, Justin. You really are one in a million, and very grateful. In the midst of just the worst kind of abuse and the worst kind of poisoning and volatility and disparagement, I don't know how my ex was able to get me prosecuted on the criminal and civil side and get me arrested with no criminal history. And I was laid off, even let DHS know. Didn't matter. A $10,000 cash only warrant issued by a judge who was later removed from the bench for her corruption, they say. But using my mugshot as a ringtone for my children to see and just horrible, horrible, horrible disparagement and alienation. But you know what? It's like I told my son the other day. It was his birthday yesterday. He turned 19, and people don't remember how you start the race, but they remember how you finish it. And if you will allow me, I'd like to give a quick little illustration of what I said to him on his birthday after finally having him in my life and being able to father him these last 3 years so focused and even when he had to be going to school and working full time. Odysseus went to fight the Trojan War. And if you remember this, he had a son named Telemachus. He loved Telemachus, but he had to go fight the wars kings do. And so he left Telemachus with his best friend. But the siege of Troy lasted 10 years. And it took another 10 years to get back home. 20 years away from his son. But when he returned to Telemachus, he found him to be a wise young man, thanks to the tutelage of his best friend, Mentor. That's where we get the word mentor. Did you know that?
Mhm.
And I said, son, you've had mentors in your life, but you only have one dad, and I am he. And I'm with you to cheer you on, and I'll walk alongside you, you know, and I will move heaven and earth, and I will burn the clouds to come to your aid because I'm your father. and I'm there for you. Now you know how much I and your family love you. And guys, there's hope. Maybe you've been in a battle for 20 years. There's hope. There are other mentors. There are other men who have influenced your children, without a doubt. But there's only one father, and that's you. And Odysseus made things right. He not only returned to his son, but when he saw the saboteurs and the liars and the thieves and those who wanted to even kill his son, he and his son closed the castle doors, and with the sword and the spear and the arrows, took out those son of a guns. They won the battle together for a new age for their family. And I believe there's a new age for your family ahead, fathers, no matter what the situation. You know, my son has enjoyed a drama-free, abuse-free, scream-free, loving environment from the day he joined us. He didn't know what to do with that. So much so that after years of battle, where did he want to be for his birthday? He wanted to be with his dad and his dad's family, where there's peace and there's love. And that's hope for you. I almost gave up hope until I found Justin Rinck. You restored my hope, and also my hope for any kind of system to turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children and the hearts of the children back to the fathers. I have a couple of older in their 20s sons that I pray one day will make that phone call as well, due to this horrific situation. But I have my youngest in my life because of Justin Rinck. And there's justice for fathers and a justice for mothers. We have a comment here. Andrew MacArthur, the hard part, the giving up is what is really best for the kids. He never stopped fighting. They begged him to stop fighting, let it go. That was hard. Thankfully, his situation leveled out after 6 months. He stopped in court, and he's still fighting the battle, of course. We know that. But you know what? Um, you don't have to live in that constant stress and apprehension, Andrew. I encourage you to seek out a lawyer like Justin as well. I'm not sure what city or state Andrew is in. It's not Oklahoma. But you know what? As long as those children know that you love them, Andrew, and that you don't give up. You know, my situation, there was total isolation. There was a phone away in a room, and punishment if you did want to talk to dad. You know, but I pray that with technology, and it's a little later in time now, most kids have phones. Send that text. They may not answer, but they will know that you're thinking about them, and that you love them. Any last recommendations there, Sir Justin?
Man, so many things that you can talk about it, just covering the gambit. But it's the number one thing I think piece of advice, whether you're, in the middle of something, whether you started or haven't started. Let's say you're in a difficult relationship and it looks like it might be heading, toward an end. Communication is important. Okay. Every single divorce, every single separation that I've dealt with in the past 13 years, the one common ground in every single one, without exception, is communication. It's a lack of communication that creates the distance. It's improper communication that creates the fights. So if there's anything you can do to improve communication from your side, if you want to save the relationship and there's a way that you can increase or improve the communication, by all means, do it. Because the children are better off with both parents in their lives. Statistics prove it. Studies year after year after year have proven it. So that's my last bit of advice. If you can, increase your communication. Even if you're separated, better communication leads to better outcomes.
That's so good. And keep track of things, folks. Keep track of things. Keep track of those communications as well. Justin, we could do a year of shows. And if I get my way, I'll talk you into doing that because so many people need this. They need hope. And all that to say is I'm so grateful for you. And I thank God for you. And my son, You changed his life. You changed his bloodline to a degree. And I'm just very happy. I want to keep up with you with the GAL stuff. I hope that we can do this a lot or as much as you want or are able to. I have a feeling you're going to be even busier than you ever have been. And I do pray that in a time where we have judges whose decisions are questionable, your true north and your convictions as a man of justice and a man of the word will render you the kind of judge America needs to turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children and the hearts of the children back to their fathers. Thank you again, Justin.
Thank you very much.